So, good afternoon to our Inspire Artists Radio listeners. Welcome back, and you're tuned in to Inspiring Talks with Ilhaam. So, today we have a very special guest, Dr. Karen Heath? Karen
Yes.
Heath.
Yeah.
She's from the Noakes Foundation. If no one knows what the Noakes Foundation is, they are a foundation based on the Banting diet, and they do a lot of research also. If you can just give us a brief history about the Noakes Foundation.
Sure. The Noakes Foundation was started about 10 years ago by Professor Noakes in the wake of a very controversial statement that he had made on social media, which was to wean a child onto real food. And he was taken to the Health Professionals Council, and he went through a very, very long legal battle. And he was exonerated from everything. There were no charges dropped. All the charges were dropped. But as a result, he wanted to create a foundation for his legacy, which really does the work of promoting real food, questioning everything that we've already been told about dietary guidelines, what is actually real food and what should we actually be eating. And so we've been here for about 10 years doing, as you mentioned, a lot of research in nutrition, and in reversing chronic diseases like high blood pressure and type 2 diabetes.
Mm. If you can, you mentioning real food. So what do you mean by eating real food? What is real food?
So, real food is unprocessed food. So, if you look at food, the first thing that we always recommend people do is have a look at the label. So, you want to choose foods that have the shortest ingredient list. So, you don't get shorter than eggs, meat, spinach. Whereas if you look at some packaged products, cereals, grains, for example, you have a lot of extra things all added in there. And the biggest added ingredient in a lot of those sort of processed and packaged foods is sugar. And we found that over the past sort of 30 years, these hidden sugars have got more and more and more. And we've been marketed these products that are supposedly healthy for us, but in truth, they are actually harming our health because they contain all of these hidden ingredients. So, to your question, whole food is anything in its most natural form. So, any kind of food that hasn't undergone a whole lot of processing, hasn't had extra things added to it, all the goodness stripped away, anything that is in its whole form as much as possible.
You mentioned before about type 2 diabetes, and this includes obesity, high blood pressure, cancers. Many chronic diseases are very common in our communities, and it's probably based on all these hidden sugars. So, based on the work that the Noakes Foundation does, what is the single most important message you want people in Answers River to understand about managing and preventing these conditions through diet?
So I think the first thing is that chronic diseases like hypertension, high blood pressure, like diabetes, like obesity, they can be reversed. So we've also been told by doctors that, once you develop these conditions, it's a lifelong condition and you basically just have to take medication and live with it. And our research has shown that that is not the case, that through diet and nutrition alone, you can reverse these conditions and you are able to live a very, very long, healthy life, simply by managing your diet. So, what that means is it means stripping out all of the highly processed carbohydrates. So, things like rice, pasta, potatoes, all of those things are very high in carbohydrates. And what happens when you eat those foods is that your body releases a hormone called insulin. And insulin is a very powerful hormone, and it does two things. The first is it helps your cells take up all the sugar and glucose in your blood. And the second thing it does is that when those cells are full, it stores that sugar as fat. So then that fat, as you keep on eating all of those products and you get more and more sugar floating around in your blood, your cells start to become a little bit resistant to that insulin, and it stops taking in any glucose into the cells. So any excess sugar you've got floating around basically goes and turns up as fat. And that's how obesity happens. And as a result of obesity, you have all of this fat lying around in your body, and that fat isn't idle. Your fat basically acts again as a hormone, and it sends off all of these hormonal signals to your body that you start producing all of these other funny hormones, and your body, your health starts to disintegrate essentially. So what we found is that if you can limit the intake of sugar and processed carbohydrates into your diet, that insulin hormone starts becoming a little bit better at dealing what it's supposed to do. And you start losing weight, and your blood is regulated, your diabetes improves, your blood pressure improves, everything improves. You start losing weight around your waist specifically. And your medication needs change, and these are real results that we're seeing, and it's not only in the wealthier suburbs that these results are happening. We have a community intervention program that we're running in Dunoon at the moment, and we've just finished an intervention there, and the results have been absolutely remarkable. We've had about 30 people on our program, um, three of which who have had to stop taking their diabetes medication entirely. Everyone has lost weight around their waist. One woman said that she hasn't been able to manage her blood pressure in about 6 years, and this is the first time it's actually been in a healthier range. So it's very possible, with some minor changes to diet, but essentially that's what it comes down to. It's all about nutrition, eating the right things, and knowing what those right things are.
Yeah, I think knowing what the right things are. So can you tell us what happens in your body once you start eating whole foods?
Okay, so as I mentioned, that hormone insulin, basically, insulin is very reactive to processed foods and carbohydrates. So when you reduce the amount of carbohydrates that you take in, you produce less insulin because your body doesn't need to produce it that much. And that helps sort of regulate all your other hormones as well. It also means that your body experiences a lot less inflammation. And that inflammation is basically what's causing irritations to your joints, to your blood vessels, and all of that, because those processed foods are often very rich in like oils, bad oils, and it's those oils that can cause inflammation in your body. So if you can exclude the oils, the processed foods, and the processed carbohydrates, everything kind of settles down and relaxes, and your body can actually work the way it's supposed to.
Oh, the way it's supposed to function. So can you tell us what is allowed to be eaten on this diet?
Okay, so we don't necessarily like to call it a diet because a diet suggests that it's something that you try for 6 weeks and
Oh,
then,
okay.
you know,
Okay,
go
lifestyle,
back to what you were doing
lifestyle.
before. A lifestyle,
Yeah.
yes. We like to call it a lifestyle. And the central part of this lifestyle, we have three
List,
lists.
an orange
We call
list,
it a
and a red
robot
list.
list.
So
And
we
on
have a
each of
green
these
list and
lists are foods that have very low carbohydrate concentrations on the green list, medium carbohydrate concentrations on the orange list and then very high concentrations on the red list. So the red list we say stay away from at all costs. The orange list we say if you don't have diabetes and if your blood sugar is well regulated, then you can eat in moderation from the orange list. And on the green list, they are all very, very low carbohydrate foods, and we say eat to hunger.
Mm.
So what we're not saying is that eat as much as you want and, you'll be miraculously healthy. What we're saying is that if you choose to eat foods from the green list, you can eat until you're not hungry anymore. And it won't have this big impact on your insulin levels like other foods would. So,
Mhm.
for example, foods on the green list are all of your animal proteins, eggs, chicken, offal, mutton, beef, lamb, anything, and from the meat section, green leafy vegetables, avocados, nuts, seeds, but nothing like maize, rice, potatoes, even some of the root vegetables are quite high in carbohydrates, so we suggest to eat lower carbohydrate veggies. But essentially, it's a very long list of food. And I think that's possibly one of the biggest misconceptions about this way of eating is that you'd be very limited into what you can eat. And that's not true at all. Um, we've we can easily plan a week or two meals, just simply using cabbage, eggs, onions, some basic proteins. So there's a lot that you can do, simply eating from the green list. And that is what is effective in weight management, in reversing type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure.
Mm. Can you tell us a bit about the IBSA program?
Okay, so EBSA is our community outreach program. EBSA means Eat Better South Africa. And that's essentially what it is. We are helping people to eat better. So
We are the Noakes Foundation, a research driven non-profit dedicated to improving public health through science backed nutrition. Eat Better South Africa, our community outreach initiative, empowers women in underserved communities to improve their health through affordable, practical dietary and lifestyle changes. Our program addresses chronic diseases like diabetes and hypertension, helping women reclaim their health with a therapeutic low carb, whole foods approach, tailored programs, and ongoing support.
My battle was just to come under 100, and I've achieved that. It has changed my whole mindset and especially my health. When I started this program, I went to go walk on Komichi Beach, and that was my first walk on the beach.
The low carb, high fat lifestyle, I know that it works. Health wise, the energy levels are off the charts. Eat Better South Africa, continue doing the good work.
By focusing on women, we create a ripple effect of better health for families and communities. With your support, we can expand this impactful work.
to eat better. So we're not telling people to eat perfect. We're telling them to eat better. And what we do is we go into communities, like I mentioned in Dunoon, and we have a 6-week program during which we educate community members about the basics of whole food nutrition. So we start off looking at what we've been told that we're supposed to eat and how this maybe isn't the way we should be eating. We do a sugar demonstration where we demonstrate exactly how much sugar and carbohydrate is in normal food that you would eat on a day-to-day basis. So you might be thinking you only have like 2 teaspoons of sugar in your tea once a day. But the reality is, if you're also eating 2 sandwiches, rice, wraps, pasta, all of those things also contain sugar. So the amount of sugar that you would consume on a day-to-day basis is probably a lot higher than you would think.
Mm.
We also talk about, basic meal planning, the importance of diet in things like sleep, mental health, immunology, how to navigate things like social events, and then also how to support each other in the community. So it's a very community-based program with local community coaches, and the results, as I said, have been outstanding.
Mm. What is some of the latest research that you're busy with now in the Noakes Foundation?
So we're busy with a couple of different things. I mentioned I work at the Dunoon Community Health Centre, and that's really our sort of flagship research that we're doing, because it basically speaks to real people, we realized when we first started this journey was that a lot of the information that we found and the results that we found were based in, upper income groups, and it wasn't really filtering down to the people who needed it most. So the research that we're doing in community health centers is really fundamental to our mission, and it's outstanding, as I said. We're also doing research looking into women's health, specifically looking at thyroid, and whether this way of eating can help improve thyroid health. And we found that it can. It's had a very, very positive impact. We're also looking at the role of this kind of lifestyle in athletic health, and whether or not you need to carbo load, for example, before endurance events. And then we're looking at sort of various specific digital programs, whether if we can deliver sort of a digital content of this way of eating to someone who has type 2 diabetes, whether or not they would be able to reverse their condition as well. So there's quite a lot going on. Obviously, our main focus is in community health. But I mean, our results are consistently positive. So I guess the take-home message is that with small changes to the way that you eat, it is possible to really make a significant improvement to your health.
Mm. How can people in communities like ours sort of identify reliable information? Because there's so much information out there and so many people doing different research, and it's too much information to process. So how do we filter through to get to the truth of the matter and to know what works?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. And I think social media doesn't make it any easier because there's just so much information out there. And I think for me, the most important thing is that you would always need to check if someone's trying to sell you something. If someone's trying to
Mm.
sell you something, you know that it's not going to work. There are no pills, there are no potions, there are no creams that you can take that will help you lose weight, that will help you regulate your blood glucose. And I'm not talking medications now, obviously, that's a different story. But there are a lot of products out there that are marketed to people to, as miraculous cures. And I can tell you now that they will not work. You are wasting your money.
Mm.
And I think the most important message really is to go back to basics. Before social media, we were told, eat healthy diet and exercise. Now we know exercise is good for lots of things, but if you're talking about improving your health and losing weight, then you have to go back to your diet. And it's not about a fad, very restrictive diet or anything like that. It's basically going back to the way that we used to eat 100 years ago, which essentially was, meat, a little bit of veg, and none of the added stuff that is everywhere these days.
Yeah, that's everywhere. Um, so for somebody who's sitting here at home listening in Elsie's River and they have to start their journey into dietary changes, and it can be a very difficult thing to do because it's everywhere and everyone's eating the same kind of thing. And now you're telling everyone, no, you can't eat rice, you can't eat bread, you can't eat pasta, you can't eat
Yeah.
that everyone is eating. So how would you encourage them, and how would the first steps be into this new healthy lifestyle?
Yeah, I mean, it's very hard. I will admit that. And I think the biggest thing is to make a change that is gradual so that you don't feel completely like out of sorts. I think my biggest suggestion would be to stop drinking sugary drinks and to exclude all the obvious sugars in your diet. So that would be things like added sugars to your tea and coffee, jam, honey, all of those sorts of very sweet things. I would gradually start to remove those. The second thing I would do is to encourage everybody to start reading their food labels. So you want to choose foods that have your shortest food labels. So anything with added sugars, you put that back and you choose something else.
Mm.
And finally, I would say choose things that are not in a box. So choose things that are like your fresh veggies rather than a boxed convenience meal. And then I think you need to also start reading up about this way of eating. And if you are struggling with your health, then it's a very, it's an important thing to do to try and make those changes. And you don't need to feel deprived. As I mentioned, that green list is a very long list. There are lots of different options on there. And I mean, I'm happy to share those lists with you, and so that your listeners could get a sense of what we're talking about when we talk about a green and orange and a red list.
Send those lists through, yeah. So, if you can tell us a bit about the work that you do specifically.
Okay, so I am one of the researchers. So I am involved on a day-to-day basis with numbers, collecting data, having a look at that data, and then analyzing it. So, drawing conclusions from that data. Um, at the moment, I'm working with one of the big meat producers in the country, and we're looking to see if athletic performance can be enhanced by a meat forward diet. So basically, I'm looking for athletes. So if there are any athletes out there who are interested in becoming a research subject, please let us know. And we'll be collecting data before and after an intervention, and the intervention is going to be them watching a video about the truth about meat in the diet. And then we'll take some blood tests, and we'll get them to carry on with their training. And then in 6 weeks' time, after they've been following this diet, we'll repeat those tests again and have a look to see if there have been any changes.
Mm. It was Women's Day on Saturday, and we say Women's Month here at Inspire Answers Radio. Do you have any message for women out there struggling with their
Yeah, I
health or
mean,
trying to overcome boundaries? So, yeah.
yeah. No, I mean, women really are the gatekeepers to the community. If it wasn't for the women, I mean, let's face it, women will rule the world. Um, but they are the ones that have the power to actually change our health trajectory. They're the ones that are cooking the meals. They're the ones that are doing the shopping. And their health really is in their hands. So I would encourage any women who are worried about their health to start today. It's never too late to start making changes to your health. And make one single change today and add on that every week. So that it's not completely overwhelming and you don't feel like you're doing this complete overhaul of your diet and your lifestyle and everything all at once. But change is possible. We have the evidence, we have the results, we know that it works. And you will just feel so much better. And I think, yeah, that's half the battle won, is when you're feeling better, you can then tell others about it.
We had Yodia Sampson on here. She's one of your ambassadors, and she was talking about how important your gut health is. If you can just touch on that a little, how important is your gut health?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, there's besides your sort of 70% of your immune system is actually based in your gut. So, you're talking about your entire health is there, and your ability to resist disease is there. There's also a very close link between your gut health and your mental health. So if you have a healthy gut, you feel better, you act better, you're able to function better. And again, this is where the real food, whole food, idea, it's so true in that it really feeds your gut, because I'm sure she would have mentioned that your gut is a whole little ecosystem. And it has millions and millions of moving parts. And so to be able to feed all of those little individual parts, you need to be fueling your body with the right stuff. And that's where real food comes in.
I was just thinking now about how it shouldn't be that difficult to include healthy foods if you just make a few adjustments. Like instead of drinking a coffee or a tea with a whole lot of sugar, you can make a smoothie. And you can have a salad, and you can even have home salads like butternut and feta, and like there's so many things that you can include. I think it's just a mindset of what's easier. I think it's also they think eating it is easier to buy something like a loaf of bread but it's not that difficult to adjust to real food, as you call it. You just have it's just a tiny little bit more effort that you have to put into. So like yeah, we need to make the changes and we need to make it easier for each other also. So like also how the stores are stocked. Like everything to make it easier to be healthy then should be implemented. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, some of the shops have started by removing all the sweets at the checkout counters, which is huge. It's significant. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's not our fault. The marketers and the shops have really, really told us so many things that is just not true. But because they've been telling us these things for so long, it's so ingrained that it's really hard to make those changes. But I think you're absolutely right in that it's small changes that we need to start with. And one of the things that we like to say is don't stop it, swap it. Okay. So instead of, mashed potato, you could have mashed pumpkin. That's a small swap. So you still get the same texture and the same, sucking up juices and all of that kind of stuff, but your carbohydrate load is just that much lower. So there are simple swaps that you can make, so that again you don't feel deprived, but that your health will then just benefit so much more for it. But it also comes down to planning a little bit ahead. And another thing we say is cook once, eat twice. So when you're making something, make extra so that you can keep some in the fridge or the freezer. So that, yes, when you do come home from work late and it's cold and dark and rainy and you really don't feel like cooking and a slice of bread is what's there, you actually have something that you can easily just pop out and eat. So yeah, it does come down to thinking smarter and planning ahead.
So Yeah, I think also the multivitamin world, they're always telling you need to have extra, take a multivitamin, but you're supposed to get all the nutrients from your food. So what did you take on like fortified food?
Yeah, I mean, fortified food is really processed foods, right? Because anything that's going to have extra stuff added to it is going to be processed. So, I mean, you get fortified breads, fortified cereals, and those are the kinds of foods that we're suggesting to avoid. Because, as you say, if you're eating a well-balanced diet, you get everything already.
Hmm.
And the thing with real food is that nature is amazing in that your food comes with all of the right amounts of vitamins and minerals that you need. So if you take a vitamin C supplement, for example, you're just getting vitamin C. But if you eat pumpkin, for example, you get vitamin C, plus you get calcium, plus you get vitamin E, and it's all in the right amounts that your body can use. So again, I would suggest save your money, rather spend it on fresh veggies than on a vitamin.
Most definitely. Thank you so much for joining us. If you can send us the lists and any information, especially the research information, because you say you have proof. And I think that's the most important part is the proof, because we hear
Mm,
all these things and social media, as you said before,
yeah,
we see all the posts, but we need the proof so that the people can see. So if you can just send that
sure.
through to Inspire Answers Radio. Thank you for joining us and Inspiring Talks
Thank
with
you.
Ilham.
It's Michael Mole here, and what a privilege to be part of this 10-year celebration of the Noakes Foundation and the work that they are doing. I'm a huge fan of Tim, of his work, of his fight for the truth, and it's not just getting the truth, it's getting the truth heard. As Tim stood up to speak, just the emotion that overwhelmed him as he looked over an audience of people that really backed him, where for so many years the medical fraternity has not backed him, has not supported him, has turned their back on him. And so I think to see people that are for you or that are here to support you was really emotional.
Well, thank you very much, everyone, for coming today. I'm absolutely overwhelmed. I'm going to start tearing up already. And I started. So it's wonderful to see all of you, and I really appreciate that you took the effort to come today. All of you mean something to me in many different ways, and to see you all here today is just amazing. So thank you very much.
And it was a moment when he put a slide up of his mom and dad, and he just said, this is the reason I did what I did. This is my why. So I think the work that the Noakes Foundation is doing is life-changing.
Eat Better SA in the community is doing great, and our patients are doing well.
This program in South Africa is a game changer. Dr. Knox, thank you for changing our lives.
Yes.
Just to have the opportunity to look back over 10 years and to look at the wins has been quite an emotional and overwhelming experience. And also, I think the audience felt that. It was like a wow. And I'm very much looking forward to the other work that we do and things like Eat Better South Africa becoming more endemic, more part of state healthcare, part of the story and the rhetoric, as is the work that the Nutrition Network is doing. So it's like the ripple effect.
Wow, how far we've come. The fact that nutritional science is now across the globe, that we are learning that diabetes is reversible, that health is at our fingertips and we can see it within our lifetime. We owe all of this to the deep sacrifice of Professor Noakes and all of the work of the Noakes Foundation.
It was actually incredible to believe that it was 10 years since we started the Noakes Foundation. And to know that, that there's a story of somebody being freed from jail because they read our textbook and use it for evidence. That's incredible. And, I have to just be honest, Prof has been such an integral part of my career. And we celebrated him today, but we're celebrating the entire movement, really, and all those who are part of it.
Such an honor and such a privilege to be part of a team that has had such a big impact on the South African landscape and the world. And to just see what's been accomplished over the last 10 years, I feel very proud to be part of the team.
I thought it was wonderful to watch it from its conception all the way to now, and to see the real people they've influenced, and to celebrate the man behind it all, who's just made such a huge difference in hundreds of thousands of people's lives. It's an inspiration.
It takes an incredible human being to admit when they are wrong and making right. And what he went through, and he did not give up. Tim Noakes is no coward. It's about standing up for what you believe in.
It's so exciting. I feel like we've just seen all the hard work that he has put over the last 10 years, but not only 10 years, his whole career, and it's just so admirable.
It was great to go on a memory trip through all that has been accomplished, and it's stunning to think that we've made such a great contribution to the health of South Africans, and also in opening up the research field as well, providing an inspiring example to other researchers.
It has been absolutely incredible to see this all come together. I'm so grateful for everyone that pitched in and that made this happen.
Amazing to just see the impact that the Noakes Foundation and Nutrition Network and Eat Better South Africa have been having. I think it's amazing. That number, 74 million people impacted, is absolutely astounding. The work they do is so important.